ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਤੇ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ. Good morning, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, whichever part of the world you are in. Um, Last time, I had done an analysis on, the air battle that recently happened on the 9th of 6th and 7th of May between Pakistani Air Force and the Indian Air Force. It is potentially or arguably the most historic air battle in modern human history, wherein first time we had so many aircraft, almost 120 top of the line aircraft with top of the line missiles, sensors, satellites, AD systems, battling out with each other for a duration of 1 hour, and in which now it is kind of agreed internationally by all credible analysts and aviation enthusiasts and military personnel that the Pakistani Air Force came out on top, and they at a minimum took down four of the Indian Air Force jets, multiple of them being Rafales, which are state of the line, I would almost say 4.5 to fifth generation aircraft made by French. So it's been a mystery that how come Pakistan, which is such a small country with such a limited arsenal, almost one fifth the size of India, how did they actually manage to take down or give India such a bloody nose in an air battle? So uh, I'll kind of in this presentation go into the depth of the underlying root causes of why the Pakistani Air Force came on top. What was the difference in equipment and tactics? And in my analysis now, given that we have a lot more information, how exactly, like what tactics they might have used to take down these aircraft. A little bit of background about myself. I am a third generation Indian Armed Forces veteran. Um, Now an American citizen. But first 33 years of my life, I grew up in India, served in the Indian Air Force, especially in the air defense branch of the Indian Air Force. And so this battle is right up my alley. I'm very familiar with the sensors and missile systems that were used and the kind of tactics that both sides must have deployed in this air battle. So, of course, my information is gathered from press briefings that India and Pakistan have given, some independent research. Also, and I have not blindly believed what they have said. I've taken everything with a pinch of salt and tried to arrive at what a logical conclusion is. So, without further ado, I can take you. I have a presentation, but people who are new to this instant, what and don't know what happened between India and Pakistan on the night of 6th and 7th of May, I have already done one live stream. You guys can go and watch it. That live stream was also very popular. And after that live stream, multiple TV channels called me up that they wanted me to come and talk about the air battle. So I thought it probably behooves that I do a more deeper study of what happened. So while we are doing that, we have a couple of people. We are live stream as well as we have a Twitter space open. Let me just share out with as many people as possible, and I will request the listeners to retweet the space as well as much as they can, so more people can join before we start. And let me also retweet this, and I will request a couple of people to come in as co-host if they can, in case the my space kind of drops. I have a if in case I have any signal issues. um, and Ravanji, can you take a co-host if that is fine with you? Okay, you have. Okay, perfect. And I've given Dulla Patiji. I've also given you a speaker, and people can ask for speaker through the presentation, and feel free to raise your hand and ask me a question, and that will kind of break the monologue. Okay, this is for the people on the Twitter space. People who are on the live stream, you can ask me questions in the chat. I can see all your chat questions come in, and I'll try to answer them as we talk through it. Okay, let's just without further ado, let's dive straight into this stuff. Okay, so this is a picture which kind of shows on the right hand side in red the Indian strike packages which came in, and on the left hand side you see the Pakistani defenders. And this is that historic air battle we are going to talk about today. At one point in time, on the night of 6th to 7th of May, there were roughly 120 odd aircraft up in the air, firing more than 50 to 70 beyond visual range, state of the art missiles in a very constrained airspace of somewhere between 300 to 500 kilometers. So this picture is the one that I took from the one of the press briefings being given by the Pakistani Air Force Air Marshal, and kind of depicts that how the air battle panned out. Um, so to analyze, why Pakistan came on top, let us first analyze what kind of capabilities, weapon platforms, missile systems, air defense systems do both of these countries possess. And I think that's a great place to start to understand where the difference came from. And as we go through the equipment list, you will realize what eventually mattered. Okay. So before we go to the equipment, this is the kind of the geography. The red on the left is Pakistan, and the blue on the right is Kashmir. Important to keep this geography in your view. Especially, you will see this area where my cursor is going is totally flat. But this whole flat plain is also enclosed by big mountain ranges, both on the west of Pakistan and then also the Himalayan ranges on the north of India, okay, which run down from like northwest to southeast of India. And these are huge mountain ranges, but the middle portion is totally flat, allowing allowing for good radar coverage and unfettered view using radars of whatever is flying in the air. So keep this particular geography in mind, because as you go through the battle you will realize how one of the air forces really used this terrain to their advantage, and to gain an upper hand. So this terrain is very unique. If you see, and I want to kind of highlight this terrain, this is the Himalayan ranges, and Islamabad is like in the foothills of these Himalayan ranges. And then there are a lot of mountains around Islamabad, and then they keep going kind of north. And a lot of the air battle that happened was actually up in these mountains, okay? And almost, I would say, four out of the five aircraft claimed by Pakistanis, the Indian aircraft fell in this Indian occupied Kashmir in the mountains, the portion that you see in blue. This light blue color is the Indian occupied Kashmir, and this dark pink is what they call Azad Kashmir, or Kashmir which is in the possession of Pakistan. Okay, so keep this geography in mind as we go through it. So, what is the actual count of aircraft? Okay, so India roughly has, or Pakistan, in the terms of total aircraft, has somewhere almost slightly more than half the number of aircraft that India has. But what we are interested in is not just the fighter aircraft. We are interested in aircraft which are air combat capable, like who can fight an air-to-air battle. So when you compare aircraft who can fight an air-to-air battle, roughly Pakistan has 350 odd, and India has somewhere short of 600. So so Indians have not exactly two times the number of air combat capable aircraft. When I say air combat, I mean the aircraft who can take down another aircraft by firing an air-to-air missiles. I would say Pakistan has 60% of the total count. So in terms of quantity, Pakistan has a huge disadvantage. But that's not the whole story. You have to actually see what is the quality of that arsenal and what type of aircraft you have. So on the Pakistani side, you have 30 plus J-10C, which is the latest and greatest that Pakistan has got. It's a very good aircraft, the latest, one of the latest Chinese 4.5th generation aircraft that China has given to Pakistan. Pakistan also has 40 JF-17 Block 3s. There are also 130 Block 1 and 2s that they have, which is a mediocre aircraft. But Block 3 is a fairly good fighter because it has an ASA radar and can do air-to-air refueling. Pakistan also has 62 F-16s, which is Block 52, which is also fairly capable, good aircraft. Then they also have 130 JF-17s Block 1 and 2, which is kind of mediocre, and 13 F-16 in air defense fighter configuration, which is also very mediocre. Then they have 45 J-7 PGs, which is basically the Chinese version of the MiG-21. It's a totally useless aircraft. Also, their 35 Mirage 3s are not great for any kind of real combat in today's world. On the Indian side, their latest and greatest is 36 Rafales, and then they have a 260 Su-30 MKIs. These are Russian origin, pretty capable aircraft, but has a lot of maintenance challenges and has an issue with their stealth capability because their radar cross section is very huge. Then another like 44 Mirage 2000s, which are upgraded. They are rated here as fair, but I would say they're very capable aircrafts. 91 MiG 29s, which is a fair, like they are fairly capable aircraft, not great, but okay. The 37 Tejas here, it is rated as mediocre, but I will call them like useless, honestly, because they are not combat capable. The ones that are in possession of the Indian Air Force. Indian Air Force also has 40 MiG-21 Bisons and 7 MiG-21 UBs, which are totally hopeless. Okay. Okay, but what eventually matters, like this is a huge edge. This is where you will start seeing the Pakistani edge coming out. Okay, while Pakistan has a lower number of aircraft per se on paper, way lower than India. The fact is, there are 70 plus aircraft, air combat capable aircraft within Pakistani Air Force, which have ASA radar, and India has only 36 Rafales. None of the other aircraft that India has, whether it is the Su-30 MKIs, have a phased array, but it's not an ASA radar. And ASA radar is day and night difference versus now kind of an outdated the phased array radars that are being used by other aircraft. So, and it's a day and night difference is what I'm told. I've not seen with my own eyes the performance difference, but that's what the reports say. So the Pakistanis have, as you see, double the number of ASA radar capable fighters. And you will start seeing this kind of theme come up. They have less numbers, but they have the right equipment. This is what the phased array radar equipped fighters. Pakistan has 70 plus, India has 296. These, I assume, are basically the Su-30 MKIs. These are not as capable as the ASA radar. So India has a lot of them. Pakistan has a very limited number of them. Now let's go to the medium range air to air missiles that both of these countries carry. India, as you see, has a number of different missiles. Okay, it has all these missiles with R-77AE, R-77SD. These are Russian origin. Okay, the R-77 is the most advanced Russian missile with 70-mile capability. The Mika and the Meteor are the French origin missiles. Derby, I'm not sure where the missile is. Let me see where the missile is from Derby. Again, it is an Israeli. The Derby extended range is Israeli. If you see, most of them are between 50 to 70 miles. Astra is a home developed missile system of India and not very great. Um, I don't trust any equipment that India says it developed based upon my personal experience with Indian Air Force. So they might quote all kind of numbers like 70 mile and all. We'll see when they actually get a kill in real life. But what India has is a very, very capable missile called Meteor. It's a French missile, 120 miles range, and should have given Indians a huge edge in air combat. On the Pakistanis have AMRAAM C5s. Uh, Everybody has heard the name AMRAAM, American missile, 65 miles, very proven missile, very good missile. But in terms of range, it's not even half of Meteor. Then the Pakistanis also have PL-12, which is 60 miles, and PL-15E, which is the export version of the Chinese PL-15. That is around 90 miles, which I would say is around 140 kilometers, or 145 kilometers. Um, but there are reports which say that the Chinese might have given Pakistanis last minute the PL-15 version of their missile, which is not the export version, which is their domestic version. And that domestic version has a range of almost 300 kilometers. Somebody can do the math, what it comes out in miles. But if that is true, then the Pakistanis actually had an edge in their air-to-air missile as well, because that's way more than Meteor. But on paper, we don't know that. On paper, we know that the Pakistanis have PL-15E, which is 90 miles. And so you say, okay, so the missile, it seems the Indians are better. Okay, let's keep moving. Um, these are the, again, this gives you the actual number of missiles that they carry. Okay. Short range and medium range. There are some other missiles as well, AIM 120C, which is AMRAAM basically. They also have short range air-to-air missiles, which are Magic 1, AIM 9L. This is the total count of missiles each one of them has. So in total, look at the bottom one. So Pakistan has, really the stockpile of missiles Pakistan has is way less than the stockpile of missiles that India has. India has almost more than double. Um, the kind of missile, more than double, actually 3 or 4 times in certain cases, certain types of missiles. Like medium range missiles, Pakistan has 1,300, India has 4,100. So that's almost 3 times, slightly more than 3 times. Okay, so that's the difference in just the sheer arsenal both of these countries carry. We talked about the air to air combat aircraft, but let's also look at the ground strike aircraft that these countries have. They will come in helpful because when India launched the package, obviously they had some aircraft which were configured in ground strike role. Ground strike means an aircraft which is going to actually launch air to ground weapons and strike ground targets. Some of the aircraft are multi-role, like Su-30 MKI. They can do air to air, air to ground as well. Rafale is a multi-role, Mirage is a multi-role, but there are certain aircraft India has which are specialized just in air to ground, which is Jaguars. So these are the specialized ground strike aircraft both the countries have. Okay, here is where the secret sauce of Pakistan came into picture. So as you see, India has more aircraft. Missiles, they are kind of neck to neck in performance, but this is where the Pakistanis gain an edge, and you will see this feature come in. The Pakistanis have 13, so 9 SAB 2000 and 4 Chinese ZDK3 AVACs, or airborne early warning radars, or sometimes they're called AEW, sometimes they're called AVACs. And Pakistan has 13, while India only has 6, out of which one is home developed, which I won't count really. So in reality, India has only 3 effective AVACs versus 13 on the Pakistani side. This is what was one of the biggest factors in the Pakistani Air Force's advantage. So what does an AVAC does? Okay, and below that you have written 4 variants L-int planes, 4 air-to-air refuelers. Pakistan has, India has 8 L-int planes and 6 refuelers. Now L-int, now this is kind of misnomer. The L-int is fine. L-int basically just listens to its electronic intelligence. It is not having counter measures most of the times. So I would kind of disregard it. Many of the Pakistani AVACs actually can also do L-int. So if you take that into picture view, the Pakistan is also having higher number of alien capability as well. Um, Pakistan has less number of refuelers, which makes sense because of the restrained geography Pakistan has. It doesn't want to do too much of a deep strike within India. India definitely has more air-to-air refuelers, but India is significantly, I would say, disadvantaged when it comes to AEW platforms. Now, the AEW platforms are hugely important. What are these? These are wide-bodied aircraft with some kind of a big external or internal radar on top of it. So this aircraft that you see has this huge kind of, whatever ugly kind of a top on top of it. That is probably most probably the radar, as well as its jamming pod, and you name it. And it's because you have a wide bodied aircraft, you can carry a really huge, big radar. And what this allows you is, one of the biggest limitations of a ground based radar is that it cannot really have detect two low flying objects, and it is constrained by the curvature of the earth, because when it throws the electromagnetic radiation, if the earth is curved, the radiation curves a bit with earth's surface but not a whole lot, and when the return comes back, once the rays go beyond the earth's curvature, you will not get the return. Okay, so the range of the ground based radars is always limited. But if you take that same radar and put it up in the air, now you can really see way far beyond the horizon. At the same time, you can see really low flying objects. Like, the ground based radar is not great at picking up low flying object. And I have a request from Moses. Moses, I'm giving you the speaker. That's fine. Freedom Buddy, if you can look at speaker requests, only give it to people you think are, not going to create a ruckus here. Anyways, and apart from the radar capability that it adds, the AVOX or early warning systems also have a lot of electromagnetic warfare capability. So, what is electromagnetic warfare? Electromagnetic warfare is like, these aircraft will have all kind of capability to listen to the enemy radio telephony, decipher what, because most of the radio telephony is coded nowadays. Decipher it. It can jam enemy radars. It can detect where the radars are, where the surface to air missile batteries are, just reading from where the radiation is coming from. It can identify different types of aircraft. It has way more capability to do jamming, spoofing, understand what kind of aircraft are coming in versus just a small fighter plane. Okay. And then another capability that it can add is what we call data link. So if it has data link, it can take this picture that it has, all the capability that is had, and also send it to all your fighters in the fighting formation. So, and it can also integrate all the information coming from ground based radars, different satellites. It can also take information from coming from the radars of different aircraft, and fuse all that information from different sensors into one integrated picture of the battlefield. And then you can really control the battle sitting there inside this aircraft, or it can send all that information down to a ground based operations room, wherein some director or some battle director can direct the whole battle in one single operations room with the whole entire integrated picture. They can actually control different weapon systems. They can give the firing orders to aircraft. They can give the firing orders to ground based weapons, surface to air missiles. There's hell lot of possibility once you have a data link and you have AVAX and this level of electronic warfare capability up in the air. Okay, so as you see, Pakistan has 4 times the AVAX versus what India has. India has only 3 A50EI, which is an Israeli radar fitted into a Russian plane, IL-76. Okay, so again, India is just doing a mishmash of Russian equipment with Israeli radars, and God knows how good that data link is. So as we go further, you will realize Pakistan has one data link. All its sensors, AVAX, the radars that are there on the aircraft, the radars that are there with surface to air missiles, the 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 sense, the picture that is coming from satellites, all of that, the ground based radars, all of that is fused into one picture, and you get one integrated view through one data link. India, on the other hand, has three data links. It has one data link for Rafales. So can talk to each other. They can share data with each other, and they can see what one Rafale can see, what other Rafale is seeing. They can identify and know where the other Rafale is. But that data link does not talk with the Russian data link. All the Russian equipment is on a separate data link. Okay, and then the Russian data link does not talk to the French data link, because the Western manufacturers will never allow integration of their equipment with Russian equipment, because that will give away their secrets. So, and then there's the third data link that India has developed, which is kind of its own data link, probably with the help of Israelis, which keeps its Israeli equipment talking, but that does not either talk to Russian data link, neither does it talk to the Rafale's data link. So the India is never able to have a complete integrated fused picture of what's going on in the battle. None of its aircraft know. So Rafales will not know what is happening. Where are the MiG-29s? Where are the Su-30s? Where are my S-400 batteries? They will just mark it on their map physically and then just fly with judgment. Okay, they cannot see it in their systems. Same thing will happen with Su-30 MKIs. Su-30 MKI will not know where the Rafales are when they're flying. They will not know. They'll probably know the S-400 batteries because it's the same system. They might be on the same data link, but they might not be able to fully transmit that data into the Indian data link. So it's the Indian air defense system is basically a mess. It's what we call in India a khichdi. Okay, it's basically nothing. It's just like on paper and probably a bit of a joke, in my view. Because I worked in that system. If they improved it, great. But from what I know, it's not. It's still pretty bad. And the reason, we'll talk about why is the Indians never invested in electronic warfare capability. Why don't they have AWACS? They have all the money, but they're not buying AWACS. Pakistan is buying like 12 AWACS. This is where the judgment and the culture, the military culture, comes into picture. Anyways, I wanted to stay some time. These are the surface to air missiles that different countries have. Here again, India has a huge edge. But India's edge is like a mish and mash. Okay, if you see India has, they say 6 to 8 S-400 batteries, but I don't think they have 6 to 8. I think they have only 2 batteries, to my knowledge, because Russia did not supply the rest of the batteries. And S-400 is the most lethal ground to surface to air missile defense anti-aircraft AD system that you can buy. And it has a range of 240 miles, max kill range of 240 miles, which is around 400 kilometers. Detection ranges of around 600 kilometers, because it has a radar of its own. But after that, there's nothing much. Okay, after that you drop to ranges of 44 miles, which are Barak, I think, is a Israeli system. Spider, I think, is an Israeli system. Then they have these Akash batteries, which are 19-mile useless, like Akash. God knows what it can shoot down, probably only the drones. On the Pakistani side, again, they have their best system is HQ9, a Chinese system, and whose range is anywhere from 112 to 161 miles. Pretty effective system. And then they have the other ones, the HQ16, Spada, HQ7. They are kind of redundant and old system, then not very relevant in today's day and time. Okay, these are the air bases the Indians have in the northern part of their country. India has like huge number of bases. You can see a lot of them on the Chinese side and a lot of them on the Indian side. They also have a number of bases in the south. Compared to that, Pakistan has very limited number of bases, because Pakistan is not a big country, but this is how their bases are kind of structured. So this will give you an idea when they were reacting to the Indian raid, how their aircraft got airborne. Okay, before we get into the battle, how the battle panned out, just a kind of a reflection. Okay, when an aircraft goes into the enemy territory, it can be detected by n number of systems. Okay, It can be detected by a ground-based radar. It can be detected by another aircraft because other aircraft, fighter aircraft, are also carrying radars. It can be picked up and detected by surface-to-air missile or AD systems. It can also be picked up by the AVAX, which is flying in the air. So all of these radar systems, they're constantly scanning, and they have huge overlaps. So it's very dangerous to go into the enemy territory for any aircraft. But nowadays, the danger is not just going into the territory. The danger envelope is also the aircraft could be in danger even when it is within its own territory because of just the range of these sensors plus the range of the standoff weapons, and that's precisely that we will see happened. Before you go there, none of the Indian aircraft or none of the Pakistani aircraft ever entered into the airspace of the other country. Still, there were 70 missiles fired and 5 aircraft at a minimum came down. Okay, so this is like a kind of a overlay of the kill envelopes of Pakistan's AD SAM batteries. Okay, so this is kind of a kill envelope. This is how you plan your battlefield. This is how, if you have what is not showing up here is um, if you have aircraft in the air, those aircraft also have a kill envelope. Okay, within that, if you enter that envelope, you will be taken down. So those are not shown. These are not radar envelopes. Okay, these are the kill ranges of the different SAM systems that they have. Similarly, you can overlay a similar kind of a radar detection envelope on top of it. Okay, so if I plonk different ground radars, these batteries also have radars. Their detection ranges are generally bigger than these kill ranges. So those kind of gives you how far or what is your detection envelope, and you will see there's huge overlap. And you will also have AVAX in the air, and it has its own huge kind of detection envelope, which is going to probably cover everything. Okay, because AVAX is the radar which is flying up in the air, or AEW, what we call it. So just to give you a sense, this is how a Pakistani commander is probably looking at who is directing the battle. He's kind of getting this integrated view. And all these systems, because Pakistan is on one data link, all the systems are talking to each other. They know exactly where they are. They know exactly where their aircraft are. They know exactly where their AVAX are. They know exactly what their kill envelopes are. They know exactly which is an enemy aircraft and which is a friendly aircraft, because the friendly aircraft is totally integrated with them. So they know exactly which aircraft to shoot and to keep an eye on. And that is one of the biggest problems in a air battle, to figure out, who is friend or foe. Okay, now let's talk about the Indian AD system. So this is the star jewel of the Indian AD system, and this is one of the mysteries that we are going to solve. How come the Indians got, such a pampering even after having S-400? S-400 has a max range of 400 kilometers. These are the three type of missiles that a S-400 battery can fire. You see the the shortest one is the range is up to 120 kilometers. There's another missile which can kill up to 250 kilometers, and the longest range is 400 kilometers. So if you put the S400 battery, and they had placed it right in Adampur. At minimum, there was one battery in Adampur that we know of, and that one battery generally has 4 launchers, and each launcher has 4 tubes. So you are talking about 16 missiles which are ready, and they can really be loaded again and fired again. How is it possible that the Pakistani aircraft were able to come even get airborne within Pakistan? And I'll show you the envelope. Okay, so this shows you the location. We know for sure this battery with the red arrow, this is the Adampur base. Okay, and this red line that I have drawn is roughly 400-kilometer kill range. Okay. Now there will be 250-kilometer kill range, which will be slightly lower, slightly less somewhere here. And there's a speculation that there's another battery that India had in Udhampur, but I'm not very sure about it. So that's why I kind of focus more on the battery in Udhampur. Um, so given that India had this SAM system, the world's best deployed here, how is it possible? Everybody should think that Indian aircraft came Indian aircraft never crossed, but they were close to the borders. They were always under the protection of this S-400 system. If anything on the Pakistani side should have crossed this line, it should have been taken down. So how is it possible that none of the Indian Pakistani aircraft were shot? Okay, I give it that the Indian aircraft were shot, but how is it possible? That's the mystery that we will solve today. Okay, and how come the Pakistani, given Indians were shooting, should have were carrying standoff weapons, they didn't even cross Pakistan? How come they were shot down? That's the big mystery. This tells you the different bases where and what type of aircraft India generally keeps there. I think Ambala is the main base where they have Rafale and Jaguars. Adampur has Su-30 MKIs. Halwara has Su-30 MKIs. Adampur has MiG-29. And then you have MiG-29 UPGs in Kashmir. Then Lucknow, I think, has Su-30 MKIs, and there are two other bases in Rajasthan which have Rafale and MiG-21 Bisons. Then Mirage 2000 are in Gwalior. So these are the bases from which most probably all the aircraft, the 60 aircraft or 72 aircraft that India kind of put into this combat took off. Okay, and as you see, they form packages. They don't all not all aircraft will take off from the same base. They will take off from different bases at different times, and then they will gather together. They have rendezvous points. Okay, RV points, and then they will rendezvous there, and they will form a package, and then they will start moving towards the border. So to kind of form that package, those strike packages, it generally took them around 30 minutes, okay, which is expected. And so this is my assessment of what kind of aircraft were there on both sides when the battle happened. Okay, based upon the information that is there, I have assumed there are like probably 8 to 12 J-10Cs, 16 plus JF-17 Block 3s, and maybe 12 odd JF-17 Block 2s. And on the Indian side, there were 14 Rafales, 24 roughly Su-30 MKIs, 12 MiG-29s, and 12 Mirage 2000s. Okay, and before I go there, I can also tell you, like, while this number, you might think that Indians were heavily outnumbered the Pakistanis, but that's not the case. Okay, because if you are the total aircraft on the Indian side was 60, you have to assume the total targets that. Okay, just hold on. Let me. There's a young man coming and asking me for. Okay. The you might say India had 60 aircraft and Pakistan only had 40 aircraft. So Pakistanis are outnumbered. Not so actually. The Pakistanis were able to actually match the number of aircraft on the Indian side, and I'll tell you how. So the Indians claimed that they had hit 6 locations with 25 impacts. So if you had to hit 6 locations and have 25 impact, you are basically saying at least 12 planes within this whole 60 aircraft package that India sent should have been in precision ground strike role, okay, which is a air to ground role. So they are not configured for air to air combat. They are only configured for air to ground role. So that is why you have these different packages. Within one package of 12 aircraft, some number of aircraft will be configured for that particular day to just shoot ground targets, and then some will be configured as escorts to in the air to air role, air combat role. So 12 aircraft will minimum for ground strike role. Then pretty much sure two of the aircraft must be configured into what we call a suppression of enemy air defense. It's SEAD role. Okay, so per package, so that's around 8 aircraft. There are 4 packages. So India, out of those 60 aircraft, 20 aircraft were configured in minimum ground air to ground strike role plus SEAD configuration. So India probably had only 40 escorts. So those 40 escorts would have been only capable of actually defending themselves and the others, which is do an air-to-air combat in case they get challenged. So as you can see, Pakistan got 42 aircraft airborne. So Pakistan matched the number of air-to-air combat aircraft that India had in the package. So that's when you get into the detail, you start realizing this. Let's compare what kind of missiles both of these the air-to-air combat aircraft, the 40 aircraft on India side and the 40 aircraft on the Pakistani side might have been carrying, because the difference in these missile capabilities will play out also in a big way. So the Pakistan had PL-15. In India, most probably was carrying AMRAAM C5 on their and Meteor on their AMRAAM C5 is what India used a majority of the time. No, this is just for comparison. Sorry, this is a comparison between C5 and PL-15. This is not a comparison with Meteor. Just to give you a sense that the PL-15, how capable this missile is. Okay, and I'll talk about this. This gives you AIM-20 C5, which is AMRAAM. As you fire a missile, okay, the ranges of AMRAAM C5 will say it has a range of, let us say, 120 kilometers, okay, or 140 kilometers. But that is only when you fire it at a passive incoming target, subsonic incoming target, okay. Then you can probably hit them at 145. But you are never firing at a subsonic incoming target. You are always firing your missile at a aircraft which will try to move away from the missile the moment it knows that the missile is coming. And keep it in mind, these missiles have two types of guidance. Once these missiles are fired, they travel very fast at Mach 4, Mach 5. And if they have only, and they go up. And then when they go up, when they lose that propellant, they're out of propellant, then they start descending down towards the target. And as the more distance they are going, the speed is also reducing. With more distance, the whole speed of the missile is coming down. So the further the aircraft, the lower the chances of missile hitting the aircraft, and further the chances of the aircraft actually turning back and even outrunning the missile. Okay, so C5 is a single booster missile. Okay, but the PL-15 is a double booster missile. So what it does is it fires, it accelerates, it reaches its top of the apogee, and then again it has another booster which fires and which keeps accelerating it. So you will see that the difference in the max speed that these missiles have at different distances. Okay, and I'll show you that right now. This graph is for AMRAAM. So AMRAAM, once it is fired, you see it peaks at around 4.25 Mach, which is roughly around 5 kilometers from the firing point. And at 40 kilometers from the firing spot, the speed drops to 2 Mach. 2 Mach is 2 times the speed of sound. And at 90 kilometers, the speed of the missile is even below 1 Mach. It is subsonic. So you can imagine, like the modern aircraft can fly up to like 1.8 to 2.2 Mach, 2.4 Mach. They can accelerate up to that. So in the outer ranges, the aircraft can outrun the missile. Okay, so that's what AIM-20C, 120C or AMRAAM. On paper, it can say it has a range of 140 kilometers, but in reality, like you have to really fire it close for it to actually effectively hit the aircraft. Now let us look at the PL-15E. PL-15E says 145 kilometers. That is against an incoming subsonic target. But what's its effective range if you start looking at it? Because it has a double booster system, even at 110 kilometers, it can maintain a speed of 1.25 Mach. Okay, but I had shown you like the AIM-20 will be almost even at 90 kilometers, it is less than 1 Mach. But the PL-15, even at 110 kilometers, it can maintain a speed of 1.25 Mach. Okay, so the effectiveness of PL-15E, and we are talking about the export version, is way better than the traditional, AMRAAM missile that most of the aircraft carry, which is kind of the standard in air-to-air missile. But imagine now if the Pakistanis had the PL-15, not just the PL-15E, that missile reportedly has a range of 300 kilometers. Okay, we don't know whether they had it, but there's speculation. Okay, this is what happened. Let's start the battle. Okay, so as per the Pakistani briefing, and which has not been disputed and is what nowadays accepted as what happened, the Pakistanis said that at around midnight of 10 past midnight, they started seeing some aircraft getting airborne from different bases within India. 12, 10 minutes past midnight. The situation was not like this. They didn't see all of these 60 aircraft, but they had started seeing from Delhi, from Ambala, aircraft getting airborne in large numbers. And the Pakistanis said at that point in time, they had these combat air patrol aircraft already up in the air. These are called combat air patrols. These are aircraft which are constantly just doing circles in the air in a particular spot, anticipating in case attack comes, they can go and intercept that. At that point in time, this is an AVAX, early airborne early warning aircraft. This aircraft was probably not here. This aircraft was probably somewhere close to the border. Okay, because you want to see deep inside India. So at 10 minutes past midnight, this AVAX should have been somewhere here close to the border, trying to pick up as early as possible as aircraft were getting airborne. And as per Pakistanis, they were able to see the aircraft the moment they were a couple of feet above the ground. And because of this AEW being so close to the border and in such an effective role, they, by 12 minutes past midnight, they were able to predict that this is a strike coming. And what they would have immediately done is they would have moved their AVAX to the back. So the AVAX would have been diverted. It would have started going back because it is a defenseless aircraft. You don't want it to be shot down and it's going to move back. Okay. And while they are doing this, what they are going to do is they will also have their interceptors, which are sitting on the ground. Those are called Operation Readiness Platforms or ORPs. They will start making them get airborne. Okay, they'll basically it's and they get airborne within minutes, like 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes. That are those SLAs that those aircraft have to maintain. The aircraft is ready, missiles are in, it is refueled, the pilots are sitting in a ready state with even their just helmets off, and the moment the alarm rings, they take their helmet and they run to the aircraft and they get airborne. And within, as per the Pakistanis claim, that by 12:30 they could see 4 packages. You see this northernmost package, this is your second package, this is your third package, and this is your last fourth package. If you see, the frontage is anywhere around 400 to 500 kilometers of frontage, or even maybe 600 kilometers of frontage. And so they were very widespread out, these 4 packages. And they're all coming towards, they have gathered, they have formed. As I said, you cannot just suddenly, all of them cannot take off from one base. So they take off, they gather, it takes time. And roughly the timing that the Pakistanis are giving makes sense. If they started picking them up at 12:10, it will take roughly 20 minutes for them to fully form. And that's what happened. By 12:30, they could see these 4 packages clearly. But by 12:30, the Pakistanis had also done something. They had gotten more aircraft airborne. Phenomenal. This is amazing. Because, like, getting so many aircraft in the air is not a small thing. Even if I go back on the slide, even having 4 aircraft cap in the air, you just don't need 4. If you want 4 aircraft always up in the air, you require almost like 12 to 15 aircraft. Okay, because that aircraft cannot remain constantly up in the air. They will, even after refueling, after 3 years, 3 hours, they will land, and then before they land, the next batch of 4 have to get airborne. So roughly 12 pilots and 12 machines are constant on the round doing duties to keep those 4 aircraft cap in the air. And same way, this, if you want a round the clock cap, then you have these 2 aircraft here, 4 aircraft here. So this kind of tells you the level of preparedness that the Pakistanis had. And it was an immense. And I have a hypothesis: how come they were so prepared? How come they were able to get like 42 aircraft airborne? That means they also had, outside these, how many, 10 aircraft? They had 30 aircraft on the ground on ORP. That's also not a small thing. Like 30 aircraft on an ORP is huge. And so it tells me that the Pakistanis knew that the attack is coming. And the attack is coming. They even probably knew that the attack is coming at this time. And you might ask why. And I was like, somebody gave a hypothesis. Some Pakistani friend came, and he was a Pakistani defense analyst. And his claim was that the Pakistanis had hacked the Indian army net and they knew all the plans. Okay, fine. But now a more plausible explanation has come. It seems the Indians told the Pakistanis before attacking. The Minister of External Affairs of India, that idiot Jayashankar, his statement has come and he's saying, "Oh, I'm so surprised that they retaliated. We told them we are going to come and only hit civilian targets, and they retaliated using their military." So it seems that the Indian Babus, they are so dumb because they've never been in the military. None, maybe their 10 generations up and down have never served in the military. They don't understand what a military mindset is. The moment they would have told Pakistani that, "Oh, we are just going to, you know, hit civilian targets. We are not going to hit your military targets." I hope the military does not respond. The Pakistanis would have said, "Yeah, we are not going to respond. Let them come." Okay, this is the first thing they will tell you. And they basically, you are telling them that we are ready to come for a trap. So the Indian Babus, the finance minister of India, and Doval and the prime minister basically sent their pilots on a suicide mission here. It's basically suicidal. They already told the Pakistanis that we are coming, and the Pakistanis were ready. And because I was always struggling with this idea, how come they were able to get within, like, it's impossible, like getting 40 aircraft into the air in a matter of 20 minutes with full or everything ready. You can't do it unless you exactly know what is coming and what time it is happening. Okay, so now that mystery is clear, seems the Indian Babu Dome and Indian ministries, in all their wisdom, actually informed the Pakistanis in advance and then sent their pilots for a suicide mission. Anyways, so if you see, what the Pakistanis did was very clever. They moved their AWACS to the back, and when they got their 40 aircraft airborne, they were now matching the number of interceptors within these 60 aircraft of India were also 40. But you see, the Pakistanis are even far more clever. They didn't concentrate their 40 aircraft across the entire frontage. They knew that these guys are coming to hit civilian targets. And obviously, the Pakistanis wanted the Indians to hit the civilian targets, because if they stop them from hitting the civilian buildings, they would, and fired at them, then Pakistan would have been considered an aggressor. So the Pakistanis allowed them to offload their standoff weapons, and when they were going back, that is when they take them down. And they basically, what they do is they concentrate their interceptors on the aircraft, on the two packages which are coming up north. Okay, so now by doing this, they are heavily outnumbering the Indian aircraft, or the Indian air-to-air combat capable aircraft, in these two packages. Within these two packages, the air combat capable Indian aircraft are probably not more than, I would say, 12 to 14. And now you have like 30 aircraft coming at you, or 40 aircraft coming at you. They are heavily outnumbered. You see that this is like brilliant. Okay, this is what is tactics. This is what is training, and this is, and why they are able to do, the Pakistanis were able to do it, is because the Pakistanis had one data link, and they were able to see exactly, and having an AWACS, really capable AWACS, not like Indian system, which is like a mismatch of things. They could see all the packages, and they could tell within the packages how many are Rafales, how many are Su-30s, how many are MiG-29s, and whosoever was controlling their battle, which was the chief of air staff of Pakistan. We learn it from the Pakistani briefing that the COC, the ops room of Pakistan, the nerve center of the battle, where all the integrated picture is made available and somebody is controlling the battle, that was the chief of Pakistani Air Force, which tells you that Pakistanis knew in advance. Because how come the chief of Pakistani Air Force was in the ops room within like 20 minutes? It's not possible. It means that the chief of Pakistani Air, either the Pakistani air chief was doing night shift, like constantly, or the other plausible explanation which has now come is that the Indians told them that we are coming on this day, and we are going to take down the civilian targets only. Amazing. Like, this is a type of buffoonery I have never heard in my life, but it is what it is. And okay, so the Pakistani aircraft are here. They're all concentrated up in the north. The Indians are heavily outnumbered. But still, the question is, how come there is an S-400 somewhere here where my cursor is, okay? And that battery is still can have a kill range of 400 kilometers. How come these aircraft still were able to fire? And that's a mystery we will solve in the next slide. But you see, there are two benefits of concentrating on the north side. One is you heavily outnumber the Indian fighter aircraft. Secondly is there are mountains here, you see. So within mountains you can hide the low, and it's very difficult for any ground based radar to pick up aircraft which is flying within the shadows of the mountains. Okay, so I'm pretty sure that the Pakistanis had practiced these tactics. They were anticipating northern aircraft on the northern side, and they were keeping their northern strike package, northern interceptors within the shadow of the mountains, making sure that they are very limited visibility available to the S-400. Okay, again a brilliant tactic. Whosoever had planned this, like this, you can't do like on the fly. Okay, you have to practice all this. So, okay, let's keep moving on. Another thing that was happening is you see this, these aircraft are coming. Another thing that the Pakistanis would have done, I'm pretty sure, is because they were on one data link, they might have told their interceptors not to switch on their radars or keep their radars on very passive mode. What that does is because the AVAX is already there and the AVAX is scanning and it already knows where the Indian aircraft are, and it has the data link with these aircraft and it is sending them the picture. What is the need for these aircraft to open their own radar? There is no need. They're just going to fly silently. We call it radar and radio silence. The benefit of that is because their radars are not open, the Indian aircraft have also receiving sensors, okay? So they cannot sense, and those receivers can tell them if somebody is eliminating them. Now, because the Pakistani aircraft are not, and the only illumination they are getting is from AVAX. So they only know there's some big aircraft way far back. They don't know there are like 40 aircraft hidden here in the mountains. This is the beauty of having an AVAX, having full integration of data links. Okay. So, and I'm not even going what else this AVAX can do. This AVAX can also jam the radars of these the strike packages of India, and you will learn, and we will see they actually, the Pakistanis were listening to all the radio telephony that was happening between the Indian aircraft. The Indians were not able to listen to the Pakistani this thing. So how we know this? Because the Pakistanis played an audio clip of two Rafale fighters trying to talk to each other. One of them got shot down, and why it is very significant is because of this. Today, the radio in the old time, the radio telephony was just HF, VHF. Okay, you transmit if anybody with a receiver could understand. But nowadays we have what we call software-defined radios. The software-defined radios, you code uh, you code the signal which is going out. So even if somebody receives the signal, they cannot understand what you are talking unless they can break that code. And this is a high degree of coding. Like this is Rafales use software-defined. All the aircraft on the Indian side have software-defined radios done by French, and the Pakistanis played a clip of that, which tells you that they were able to intercept, decode, and monitor whatever the conversation was happening between these aircraft. Okay, so that tells you that in terms of electronic warfare capability, the Pakistanis were way ahead of the Indians, and they had even broken the French Rafale, whatever codes they were using to code their radio telephony or software-defined radio. Okay, again, this capability is not an aircraft capability. This is all the capability in their AVAX and AEW system that you practice, you plan for in advance. You just don't build it, in the time of battle. So the AVAX is eliminating everything. The Pakistani aircraft are hidden. Nobody knows where they are. They know where they are. Another thing that they might have done very cleverly, okay, which I think they have done based upon what I've heard from other people who should know. As I said, as you fire a missile, okay, the aircraft fires a missile. The missile, how does that missile go and hit a target? This is almost a distance of, let us say, 150 kilometers. What happens is the traditional method is the aircraft has a radar of its own. And the aircraft knows where the other enemy aircraft is. And when you say, you have seen the movies where they show that the aircraft is saying, I'm taking a lock. What that means is
When the aircraft is scanning in a general mode, it is not really focused on that one aircraft. It knows something is there. But when it takes a lock, the beam, the radar will start sending a very concentrated beam of electromagnetic radiation only against that particular aircraft and make sure that it is getting constant feedback where that aircraft is. Its precise location. That is called taking a lock. So this aircraft would have taken a lock, released its missiles. When the missile comes, the missile is only passive. Passive means the missile in the initial phase does not have its own radar open. It is looking, it is waiting for the electromagnetic radiation that this aircraft has sent to hit the aircraft, and the missile's receiver receives that electromagnetic radiation. And then knows where the enemy aircraft is, and it starts guiding itself towards that direction. This is called mid-course guidance. Okay, the mid-course guidance. In the mid-course guidance, the missile wants to be silent. The missile wants to take it from the aircraft radar, and the reason for that is because the aircraft is going to be back, missile is going to be in the front. It doesn't want this enemy aircraft to know that it's coming for it. Okay, but how does the enemy aircraft know that a missile has been fired? You might have seen movies, okay, and they say, okay, missile launched, I've been locked, and and they even tell you that a missile has launched, because the moment the aircraft locks on, the frequencies change, they become shorter. So the receivers in the aircraft, the target aircraft, are tuned to tell the pilot that somebody has locked onto you. And if they have released the missile, there is another small change in frequency, and the receivers in the target aircraft will tell the pilot that, oh, they have launched a missile. Okay. And what happens is when the missile is somewhere close to 30 kilometers from the target, then it will not depend upon this aircraft, because this aircraft by that time would have turned. Okay, this aircraft after firing starts turning, and by the time missile is 30 kilometer, the nose of this aircraft is way far looking back, and the why it wants to turn is it doesn't want to go too close to this aircraft, because this aircraft might have also fired a missile. So within 30 kilometers of this aircraft, then the missile, this is called the terminal guidance, the missile will open its own radar, and it will look in the same spot where the aircraft should be, and it will take its own lock. Now it is sending its own electronic radiation and getting the feedback back, and that terminal guidance, all the missiles will have their own radar, and once that locks on, it's only the speed of the other aircraft that can save them. If they can outrun the missile, fine, or they can do some electronic counter capabilities like chaff and all. You will see all that kind of aircraft throughout. So only the terminal phase, the missile opens its own, radar. Once the missile opens its own radar, those frequencies are also different from aircraft frequencies. Now the target aircraft receiver will tell the pilot that, okay, now the missile is very close to you because the missile has opened its own radar. Okay, so the pilot gets all these different kind of warnings in the receiver. So then he knows that he has got seconds to live unless he does something about it. Okay, and so this is how the typically happens. But in this case, the Pakistanis probably did a very smart thing, because they had such a good data link with AWACS. When they fired the missile probably did not take any guidance from this aircraft. The moment this aircraft fired a missile, it turned back at its best, and the missile took all the mid-course correction from AWACS. Okay, so what that allowed is that allowed this aircraft to escape immediately after firing without having to even go do a slow turn, and it immediately escaped. And also this aircraft remained hidden. Nobody knew that this aircraft was there because it was not transmitting anything on its own. So the Indian AEW platform probably didn't even knew there was an aircraft. This aircraft also did not knew there was an aircraft, and that aircraft might have fired a missile, because this aircraft is only getting illuminated by AWACS. So this aircraft was probably thinking, okay, I'm good, like nobody firing at me, but there's already a missile in the air, and that missile is taking all its mid-course from AWACS. And when it is 30 kilometers close or even closer, it might have opened its own radar, and that is the time this pilot would have known, oh my god, there is a missile which is next to me. And by the time, it was probably too late. It would be too late for this pilot to react, because he had no early warning of where the missile is. And I will tell you exactly this is what happened. when we listen to the radio telephony that we captured of the pilots. You will see there the two aircraft are going, they are doing ops normal calls with each other, and then suddenly one aircraft vanishes. They were not running away from any missile. They were just going back after dropping their load, thinking the mission is fine, and out of the blue, they get hit by a missile, which tells you that the Indian pilots who got shot down, they had absolutely no clue that a missile is coming for them. And that was achieved by the superior tactics and the AWACS systems that the Pakistanis deployed, and the data link and capability that they had, and how they kept their aircraft who fired the missile totally silent. Okay, before I move ahead uh, on this particular topic, does anybody want to ask a question? Did I explain it correctly? Did everybody follow? Freedom Paji, was I able to explain this correctly? I just want to make sure I don't want to presume, because this is a slightly.
Oh, yeah, you first said what normally happened, and now what happened in this case.
Were you able to follow and understand what I was trying to say? How this?
Yeah. Basically, there was no radar detection from Pakistani airplanes since they never opened it up.
Correct. And this aircraft, the Indian aircraft, never knew that a missile was coming for it. Because the only way it would have known is if this aircraft, the fighter aircraft on the Pakistani side, had taken a lock and kind of then fired a missile. Because that never happened. They just fired, and the mid-course correction came from AWACS. The Indian aircraft never had any clue that a missile is coming for it. Does that make sense?
That makes sense, yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. So that is how the Pakistanis were able to surprise. Sunny is laughing. Sunny, aaja tu hi aaja. And Pakistanis were able to take out probably the Rafales. Okay. And let me go ahead on the next slide. Now let us look at what might have happened. Okay, which aircraft were hit while they were going back, and which aircraft were hit when they were coming in. So if you see, there were certain aircraft which were hit way far away from the international boundary. And we know that majority of the bombs that India dropped were hammers, which have a range of like 60 kilometers. So they couldn't have been dropped from so far away from the boundary. So this Rafale wreckage, which dropped in Barnala, which was almost 120 kilometers inside India, would have mostly been hit. Would have been a Rafale which came close to the border, dropped its load, and was actually going back. And while it was going back, it got hit by a missile without it even realizing that a missile has been coming after it all the while. This particular Rafale, which is suspected to have dropped close to the border, was most probably a escort. And the ones which are going away, which are away from the border, would mostly have been the strike package, okay, which dropped the bomb and were going back. This which was incoming, these would have been escorts. Escorts don't go back first. They let the strike package first go out, okay? Then the escorts stay in that area for some time, anticipating some interceptors to come in, because they want to shoot down the interceptors. So they loiter around in that area sometimes. They don't immediately turn back, and they want to make sure the strike package escapes safely, and they want to be in that area for some time before turning back. So this Rafale was most probably a escort with an air-to-air configuration, which was hit while it was coming in. There was this Rafale, which is 98 kilometers inside India, huge. This was most probably going back after dropping its luggage. The Su-30 MKI, the close ones were coming in. The ones which were hit away from the international boundary, my assessment is they had already dropped their load, and they were mostly like going back, and they were hit in a fully surprise fashion by the PL-15s, fired by aircraft who had not even switched on their radars. And okay, so this is what I think happened, and let's quickly play the radio telephony. Let's see why I say so, that the radars of fighter aircraft of Pakistan were not even on, and all their guidance came from AWACS. Let me play this audio leak, okay? listen to this audio that the Pakistanis released. This is an audio of two aircraft, the Godzilla formation, which probably had four aircraft. And then the number one is calling with the other aircraft, and I will walk you through the radio telephony. Okay.
From a Rafale formation that I will share. The call sign is Godzilla. As soon as those animals are extinct, so this one also got extinct. Please play. So he's asking whereabouts of his formation member.
Okay. So it said Godzilla 4, reading you fine. And then he says something to Godzilla 3, which I couldn't figure out. Godzilla 3 does not respond. But the first sentence when he says Godzilla 4 is reading you fine, it basically means that Godzilla 3 first gave a call to Godzilla 4. And Godzilla say, yeah, I read you fine. Go ahead and tell me what you want to say. And then Godzilla 3 does not respond. And then you will see Godzilla 4 again asking, Godzilla 3, can you do ops normal? Check ops normal. Are you operating normally? And then after some pause, he will say, oh, I see a explosion in the air. That's what will happen. Godzilla 4 reporting an explosion in the air. Let's play it again so that you kind of understand. Just hold on. Let me take it back.
Share. The call sign is Godzilla. As soon as those animals are extinct, so this one also got extinct. Please play. So he's asking whereabouts of his formation member.
Okay, what is it? Godzilla 4 reading you fine. Where is Godzilla 3? And there is no response. And he says Godzilla 4 ops normal. Godzilla 3 check ops normal. So he's asking Godzilla 3 is there ops normal? And then he'll say huge long silence. And then he'll say Godzilla 4 reporting an explosion in the air. So basically, then he probably saw that there was some kind of a fireball in the back. So the Godzilla 3 was taken out. So you see the Godzilla 3 and Godzilla 4 were just doing ops normal calls. They were just going back. They had no clue, because if they had a missile coming for them, they would have been in much more panic and kind of asking for each other, like, where exactly like the missile is, what kind of actions you are taking. None of that is happening. These are just aircraft pilots just doing ops normal check, and then they're going back, and then they're surprised by a missile.
So the formation knows, his leader knows that one of his flight member is not there. They have an RT. This is the original RT that they are exchanging in their.
Yeah, you can see this Godzilla 4 reading fine, silence, maintaining 300, and then off normal check.
Yeah. Asking about his position. He's giving his own operations as fine, but he has claims that I've seen an explosion in the air.
Okay, so this is why I kind of claim that what might have happened is that these guys were totally surprised by the missile hitting them. And when this aircraft fired the missile, this aircraft had none of its radar on. The poor Rafale had no idea that there's a lock that somebody has taken on it, because all the mid-course correction for the PL-15 missile was coming from the AWACS. So this is like the level of integration that the Pakistanis have achieved. Think of it this way. They have integrated with data link, the aircraft, the AWACS, but even the missile systems. The missiles are taking guidance from the AWACS, and they were able to do this because all of their equipment is Chinese. PL-15 missile is Chinese, the aircraft is Chinese, and the AWACS AEW system is Chinese. While on the other hand, the Indians have 3 different data links which don't talk to each other, leave alone the missiles talking to each other. Some aircraft are French, some are Russian, some are British, Some are carrying, jamming pod from Israel, a missile from France, a missile from Russia. It's a hodgepodge. It's a khichdi, total khichdi. And in that khichdi, you can't do this level of operations that the Pakistanis are doing. Okay, so you see, like the Indians were not even able to know where their own aircraft were, leave alone have a level of integration where they can fire silent missiles at the enemy aircraft in a real life scenario. That is the level of difference uh, between the capabilities of Indian Air Force and Pakistani Air Force that were visible. Another big capability, electromagnetic warfare capability, because the Pakistanis are able to decipher the radio telephony between Rafales. That's not a small thing. Uh, and another, but you might ask me, Harjeet, you told me that the missile will open its own radar in last 30 minutes, right? Last 30 miles. At that time, the Rafale should have known that the missile has locked onto him. But in this case, it seems even that did not happen. And to me, that could have happened because the PL-15 is a very new missile. And maybe Rafale receivers are not yet configured or updated enough to decipher the radar signature of a PL-15E missile. And somehow the PL-15E missile is able to fool the aircraft into not picking up, its radar lock. So that is what. Otherwise, there is no reason why Rafale should not have been in panic at that point in time. What we see in the radio telephone. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is my short presentation on what might have happened. With that, we will take any questions. Okay, let me anybody has any questions? People can ask for speakers. You guys are most welcome to ask questions, because the more questions you will ask, the more you will learn, okay, about this battle. And I think it'll be interesting for people to know what exactly happened here. Let me invite a couple of other people. And okay, couple of other things that we can learn about this skirmish is this. Let's go and look at how I know that the Pakistanis were well prepared for it. Here it is. You see, here is the whole mystery open right in front of your eyes. I was always confused, like how come the Pakistanis were so well prepared? Like how could they got 40 aircraft up in the air? Just normal training, I understand, but like Pakistani are still not superhumans. Getting 40 aircraft into the air in like a matter of 20 minutes and without being totally prepared for it, that's a feat I don't think any other air force can claim to have achieved. So this is where once Mr. Jayashankar spilled the beans. He said, we informed Pakistan before launching Operation Sindoor. And we told them that we are only going to attack the terrorist camps and we are not going to attack any military establishment. So please stand down. Oh my God. Like, what's going on, India? Like, what were you thinking? Hanji, Dullapati ji, please go ahead. Dullapati ji, please feel free to ask questions in English, Hindi, Punjabi, whatever you are comfortable in.
Up to you. Like, I mean, I don't know what the audience is like. Punjabi bhi kar sakte hain, English, Angrezi bhi.
If you are comfortable with English, English is preferred, but you can ask. If you're not comfortable, you can ask in Punjabi.
Yeah, English is fine. Question: you don't really cover the S-400 part. So that's like a mystery, right? How I know, I think from my whatever I was from my layman's perspective and what I looked up, seems like it was like a JF-17 that fired like a CM-400 AKG, like an anti-radiation missile, which is like I think a supersonic missile. I think it usually is used for like aircraft carriers and stuff, but you can use it for like air defense systems also, because it locks to the radar systems, right?
Yeah.
So, do you have any information or any kind of analysis on that?
Yeah, and yeah, my guess is this, like, couple of guesses. One Pakistani analyst told me that Harjeet, the Adampur battery. Okay, so first of all, before we go there, taking out a SAM radar or a SAM battery is one of the toughest things in a battlefield. We have seen in the Ukraine Russia conflict that Russians were not successfully able to do that, because the SAM radars are typically mobile in nature. You can just fold them and move them. Unlike like ground-based radars, which are static, the SAM systems can be moved, and an S400 is a completely mobile system, and I'm pretty sure they must be moving it within the base, even if it is one base. So the only good way to effectively hit them is you need an anti-radiation missile. Anti-radiation missile is a missile which can home in to where the radar signature is coming, like the electromagnetic radiation being emitted by the radar, the detection radar of the SAM system is, and then it should be able to home, and it should be able to guide itself and hit that. And the Chinese have a anti-radiation, I think it is CM400 AKG something, which has a range of, I'm told, 300 kilometers, and somebody keep me honest. And so one of the Pakistani analysts told me that, Harjeet, because we knew that the time of attack, we knew that Indians are coming. What the Pakistani Air Force did was that even before the other interceptors were born in the air, the very first aircraft were, I think, three JF-17, they claim, that got airborne, who flew very low, like something like this in the way, close to the mountains, and fired that anti-radiation missile at the SAM S400 battery. So as per him, the S400 battery was taken down almost simultaneously, or even before the Indian aircraft were fired on by the Pakistani aircraft. That's one explanation. Uh, that sounds like, honestly, like fantastical kind of a notion to me. The other thing that I can think of is that there are two type of missiles that S400 carries. One has a range of 400 kilometers. The other has a range of 250 kilometers. And I am assuming that the Pakistani air chief, who was actually controlling the battle, he probably kept the aircraft out of the 250 kilometer range. Okay. And so they were somewhere between 240 to 400 kilometer range at the max. And at that range is, if the Pakistani AVAC systems were in a great shape, the moment any SAM S400 had fired, they had enough time to escape that kill zone. Okay. So, and that will fit the public statement by the Pak Army Air Force chief, that he was not only focused on attacking the Rafales, he was focused on keeping his boys safe and out of the S400 range. So that is another tactic they might have deployed. But any other idea, I'm open to it. But if either of these cases, it shows you the immense professional capability of the Pakistani Air Force, and how well they conducted the battle. Okay, how well they conducted the battle. The role of their Pakistani chief, which is Air Marshal Sidhu, and another Sidhu probably shooting down another Sidhu flying the aircraft, but Air Marshal Sidhu, we are proud of him. Like, we are proud of our, Lena Punjabi brothers. This is a hats off, like, respect for all the professional man. And yeah, hopefully this goes to its logical conclusion, and we all get together to to dismantle Delhi, that is where we don't trust you guys. I think you guys don't want to dismantle Delhi. It's more about just keep deterrence rather than solving the Delhi problem. But ਹਾਂਜੀ ਭਾਜੀ ਆ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਨਾਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਸਮਝ ਆ ਰਿਹਾ ceasefire now. If you want to say anything, please go ahead.
Thanks, Ajay. A short question. I read a lot about role of electronic warfare, jamming, I don't know, drones. These on the Pakistani side. I'm in Lahore, so that's why I heard a lot of news, maybe on both sides. So just wanted to see if you have thoughts about the role of electronic warfare and jamming, either cruise missiles or drones or what have you in this war. Because it seems it was pretty extensive, but it's just not clear in the fog of war and all this in misinformation, disinformation, exactly what might have happened. So love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah. So the Pakistani claims officially are that they were able to effectively jam. Oops. Sorry, I was on mute. So the Pakistani official claims are that they were able to effectively jam the incoming strike packages, and then there was confusion among the Indian packages. But I would say creating confusion among any such a large Indian strike package probably is not that very challenging, because they're already not on a data link. All of these 4 strike packages, let me go back. Imagine what kind of a khichdi they were in. Okay, where is that gone? Okay, let me try to bring that. Yeah, here it is, right? So these are 4 strike packages. You will not have all Rafales in one package. Okay, things would have been these 4 would have been Rafale here, 2 Rafale here, 3 Rafale here, 3 Rafale here, 2 Rafale here, something here. Same thing they will do with Su-30 MKI. They're going to mix and match. And the reason is because each aircraft, as I said, in one package, there will be 3 types of aircraft. One is configured for air to ground precision bombing. The second type of aircraft will be configured for SEAD, which is suppression of enemy air defense. And the third type of aircraft, which will be the highest number of aircraft, will be the what you call escorts, who will be there to armed for an air-to-air combat. So all of these packages, even in the same package, the aircraft are not on the same data link. They are probably on different data links. So they are probably just doing flying, based upon GPS, and I don't know how they're flying, honestly, what their tactics are on flying. But I think they are already kind of ripe for any type of melee or one aircraft goes down and kind of it's recipe for disaster. And that's exactly what happened when they were probably turning back and they got hit by missiles. There were confusion. And then if you add in the midst of it that the Pakistanis had AEW platforms way far in number, we are showing 1 here. We don't know how many were up in the air. Maybe they had 3 or 4 AWACS up in the air at that point in time. And maybe one of them was totally focused on jamming. And jamming is basically, just for other people to know what is jamming is, all the radars that are in the aircraft and all the communication that is happening between the aircraft is happening through electromagnetic radiation, okay, like mobile phones. The electromagnetic radiation operates in different bands of frequencies, and the way you can jam is, suppose I'm operating in a particular frequency. In a simple word, I'm operating you listen to radio. I'm in 271 HF. Somebody can put on too much frequency into 271 HF there that it's all noise. I can't figure out the difference between signal and noise. That's jamming. Now, to counter that, what they do is they code their frequencies so that even if somebody is jamming it, they can figure out what the signal is, and they don't get jammed. So once you have coding done into those transmitters and receivers, the electronic counter measures come where they actually try to jam in different, they also jumble up their jamming so that they can mimic that code and still confuse you. And then there's called spoofing. Spoofing is They will learn what code you are transmitting, what frequency you are working in, and then they will not jam you. They will just give false signal. And so you might think that there are 13 aircraft on the left hand side, while there is no aircraft there. That's called spoofing. So, so the electronic warfare capability of Pakistan was significantly higher because, and this is just a layman, I'm giving you some example. It's way more advanced nowadays. This is when I used to be in the Air Force. That's bare minimum stuff that you used to have. Then you have satellites which can also come into play. You can jam satellites as well because everybody is communicating using electromagnetic waves. Okay, and it's all happening in frequencies, and so that's why this electromagnetic warfare, like the amount of sophistication you have, and if you can jam these aircraft, like their communication and their radars, you are done. They're sitting ducks. You can just come and pluck them out. But the key was that 400 battery, and that's where like I have a couple of hypotheses, but I'm open to listening to other ideas. Hanji Dullapatti ji.
I just have, I guess, a question. Actually, like, not a question, but a comment, and then maybe a theory that I want to run by you. Maybe you can let me know if that makes any sense. So, first is the comment is like, so Pakistan actually worked on their own link, like it's called Link 17, so the indigenous link, which is like kind of like I think NATO has Link 16, I think they call it. So they kind of like I guess modeled it around the NATO one, but like they made their own indigenous data link system. And then the other, so the theory is this. So maybe I can run it by you. Like you can let me know if it makes any sense. So of course, like the foreign minister of India actually told the Pakistani civilian government that hey, they're gonna attack and then please don't attack us back or something or whatever, or we're gonna hit civilian targets and this is it's not attack on the military of Pakistan, but I'm not sure if they were. I mean, he would have told them, but he probably would not have told them the exact window of the attack, right?
Yeah.
So my kind of thinking is, if you remember what the presentation was by that Air Vice Marshal Aurangzeb, he was saying they started noticing the package building up from the north.
Yeah.
In India.
Yeah.
And the only thing I was thinking is, so China has really, really big radar right on Tibet, right on top, which kind of sees the entire subcontinent. And I'm wondering if, and of course, China has also provided the military application of the satellites to given access to Pakistan, right? Their Baidu system. So I'm wondering if somehow either China provided it directly or they had access to their either that radar or the satellites where they were able to kind of see that build-up happening so soon where they were able to respond really. I mean, they were probably ready for an attack for maybe a day or something, because they knew, because if you remember the Pakistani foreign minister coming out to be like, hey, India is going to attack us in 24 to 48 hours.
Yeah.
Right? But that didn't happen within that 24 hours, 48 hours, and then it happened actually a day later, I think something like that. I forgot exactly.
Yeah. So I don't think the Chinese radars would have picked up anything on the Indian side, and I'll tell you why I say so. Okay. Let me show you the way the geography is. For any, you see, this is the Himalayan ranges, okay, and then the Tibet is kind of further north. Tibet is a plateau. It's a super high level plateau. Okay, so but you are right, the plateau is higher up than the plains, but still there will be some mountain ranges which are going to be higher than that plateau, unless that plateau is kind of sitting on top. So I don't know how good a pickup they get across the mountain into our plains, unless they have AVAX up in the air. But even if you have AVAX up in the air, it's all mountainous. The AVAX cannot fly on top of the mountains. These are such high mountain ranges and the air is so thin. So I think that's where the Chinese Air Force is at a disadvantage, because they have to take off from a very thin atmosphere. And India has an advantage versus China in air combat, because the Indian aircraft take off from dense air low down in the plains, and they can pick up a heavy load and get in the air, and then you can get into the mountains, because the most amount of lift you need is when you are taking off. Once you're up in the air, you're up in the air. So So I don't know how much role China would play. There's another thing that you're right. Like the Jayashankar might not have told them the exact time, but they might have said, okay, maybe it's tomorrow, right? We are going to do this and just stand down. Because just this whole attitude of the Indian fighting formations, it seemed as if they were not anticipating a big resistance from Pakistanis. Seems like they were like coming, okay. Because if they were anticipating huge resistance, I would not have used hammer bombs. Okay, why would I use hammers? India has enough scalps. What we know is that most of the bombs that they used, more than 90% were 90% of them were hammer. Hammer, difference between hammer and scalp is this: they use one or two BrahMos, very little. There are total 25 impacts, out of which probably like a couple of them were scalp. Scalp is has a range of 250 kilometers, so it's pretty standoff. But it's a missile on its own. But the hammer is just a JDAM kit which goes onto a dumb bomb and glides the bomb and makes it smart. You can take any 1,000 pounder and put the hammer kit on it, and basically the wings come out and the bomb starts gliding. Now it can fall like 50 kilometers away with its own GPS navigation rather than just drop where it is dropped. So, so I would say that the fact that the Indians picked majority of the weapon systems to be hammer was driven by some assumption that the Pakistanis are not going to resist. Because you see the surprise that Jayashankar and Modi saying, look, we had told them it is civilian targets we are attacking, but they responded with their military. So they were actually genuinely surprised. They were showing an outrage. As if like we had an agreement, we are going to bomb the civilian targets. And maybe that's what they told the Air Force that look, you are going and bombing the civilian targets, and the resistance will be little, and it'll like pretty much like they did in Balakot. So that's one hypothesis. The other is that the Pakistanis, I think, had enough AWACS of their own. They had 12 AWACS, man. Like I think, look at these plains of India. Okay, look at this geography. The AWACS would have been flying east of Indus for sure. Okay, and and any time anything will get airborne from Ambala or from Halwara or from any base in Rajasthan or Delhi or even Gwalior, uh, an AWACS flying here will pick it up in matter of like even before the wheels are up. Yeah, so that would be my understanding of the situation. Okay, anybody have any further question or anything to add or ask? Okay, if not, okay, yeah, so, yeah, ceasefire now, ji. Go ahead.
Umair, my name is Umair. One last thing. I mean, one of the things that I've been trying to understand is if some nuclear asset was attacked. There's a lot of news about Krana Hills have been hit or Noor Khan base have been hit, blah blah blah. It's unclear. I mean, I don't know as a square. I don't have actual information if something strategic was hit or not. But as one article said, just because you tried hitting a strategic asset was probably a dumb idea because Pakistan doesn't know if this was out of showing off, or if there was an actual intention to attack the nuclear arsenal of another country. And I still haven't been able to understand, like, why would you try and attack without even going into a full war? Why would you attack kind of half-heartedly another country's nuclear arsenal and then kind of boast about it? It just seems so stupid that I just don't. I feel like no country would do that, but it happened. So I want to give each party like the best possible option. Like, they're rational actors and they must have a good reason for doing this. So if they attack Noor Khan base, like, was it just an empty threat? But why would you think this was just an empty threat? What do you think about that?
No, I think it is just India getting caught in its own lies. Look, the amount of disinformation, misinformation, malinformation that the Indian media, which is basically an extension of Indian state, the Indian society as a whole, if there is something called Indian society, let's call it like the upper caste, Hindi speaking society of India, which is basically the most violent and the most bigoted element of India. If you see, like they love these lies. So somebody will make up any fantastical lie and they will start kind of parroting it. And the state will almost use those lies whenever it is to their convenience. First, they came up, somebody said, oh, because now there was an embarrassment that the Pakistani chief was, showing these detailed presentations with evidence of with recorded radio telephony of Indian Rafale pilots. You had videos of the Rafale wreckage, Su-30 wreckage going around on the internet. So what did India do? It bans 8,000 Twitter handles and YouTube accounts of even major media sites like the major Western media sites. So that, okay, we don't want our Indian people to know that we really got a drubbing. And then the educated element of India, it loves that. It wants to be in that brainwashed moment and wants to kind of spread the lie that look, Hindu Rashtra came out on top. So somebody came up with this fantastical thing that look, there is radiation leakage and India hit Krana just out of thin air. I think they made up. Somebody made up, and then maybe it was the state which said throw this kind of balloon up in the air, and when you actually see like IAEA, which is the Global International Atomic Energy Agency, basically has confirmed there is no leak up there. Plus, when the Air Marshal Bharti was asked this very specific question, he clearly said, "Look, we never hit any Kirana hills." So all this was made up by Indian, propaganda machinery to kind of just create an impression for the domestic audience that we have done some damage, and they don't even realize what it means, to hitting a nuclear site. And I don't think they are in their right mind. Honestly, this whole Hindutva, Indian nationalism philosophy is quite destructive, honestly, and these guys can go to any length, and it makes even their decision making very dumb, like this assumption by Jaishankar that they can tell Pakistan that we are coming and we will come and please don't hit us and they will comply with it is stupid. Maybe Pakistan complied in the Balakot time, but even then they took down MiG-21. So, yeah. Hajidullah Patiki, you went away, but I know your hand was raised. Okay, if anybody has any questions, we can take it. Else, you have within 1 or 2 minutes, I will close this. And I'm trying to look at some more examples I can share on what exactly happened. Okay, then I think we did a decent presentation. We can close this. Thank you, everyone, for joining. It was wonderful. Always, have people listen in. Hopefully, this was helpful. My aim was to spread more education on what might have happened. I'm pretty sure of my analysis now, with all the data points that have come out, and that the Pakistan is gained an upper hand, but it was always a mystery for people. How come? We will go into the deeper reasons. I think we today went into the tactical aspect. Okay, Muhammad is coming up. Maybe he'll have a question. Yeah. Yeah, Muhammad Paji, you have a question.
Thank you very much, Pete. Paji, thank you for giving me this opportunity. My question to you is this incident which just happened, it was a wake-up call for the entire world. Is it going to happen again? Do you reckon Indians going to again coming back to Pakistan? Or is it done and dusted and everything is now going to be quiet?
Yeah. So I think that depends upon you have to go and understand why India did Pahalgam. I'm very convinced that Pahalgam was a false flag operation by the Indian state, pretty much like they did Chhattis Singhpura, pretty much like where they killed 35 Sikhs. to gain international sympathy that they are victims of terrorism, to take away international pressure from international community that India was undergoing right now for having murdered a couple of Canadians and was running death squads on American soil. India was also recently accused for being the biggest source of fentanyl in precursor into US. Um, Plus, the divisions were coming up. People in South were clamoring for that they are not being treated well. There were issues happening in the Northeast, and most importantly, the Sikh minority within India was raising its head up against the Indian state again. So they wanted to basically create a false flag operation, generate this animosity with Pakistan to consolidate the Indian nationhood, rally the Hindu Punjab population around the flag, make Sikhs kind of hate Pakistan again. Because the biggest fear that the Indian state has is this: that the Sikhs who are Punjabi ethnically and the Lenda Punjab people who are also Punjabi ethnically, their same DNA. What if they develop close people to people contact? Like, what's going to happen to the Indian state? Indian state will be finished that day. So they have to constantly create this war with Pakistan to wean Sikhs away from the notion of having any kind of a friendly relationship with Lena Punjab. So that was another idea that their objective. So whether this will continue, I think in all their objectives they only succeeded partially. Um, they have this huge media machinery that it doesn't matter whether India lost the war. They have the ability to totally lie to their brainwashed people, because Indian government has such a control on the media between in India, even social media, even internet. They have filters on the internet. They censor every single tweet that the people of the India can read. They have an IT cell of millions of people, okay, millions of people. So they have totally brainwashed they can brainwash the Indian population. So even if after losing the war they can make 1.5 billion people presume that they actually won it. So it all depends whether something else will happen is how much the Indian government is successful in leveraging this incident to tell the Indians that we have actually won, to make the Sikhs hate Pakistan, and to rally people around the Indian nationhood, and to kind of show themselves as the victims of terrorism in front of the international audience. I think it's 50-50. I think they have partial success. Um, but they don't have like astounding success that they thought they might have. And a lot of it has backfired against them, because and it has helped Pakistan gain international uh, prominence, credibility in the eyes of the international, not only in the eyes of international players. Pakistan has become like a hope for some minorities within India. Who would have imagined? Like the Bengalis are saying, we are going to partner with the Pakistani army, kind of take down India. The Sikhs are looking up to Lena Punjab to kind of, make sure we put an end to this uh, animosity that the Indian state has been feeding the Sikh minority into. So plus the Pakistani state itself has come across as credible, that okay, it might not have great democratic institutions, but it has a real army, an army that can fight, and it can fight somebody 5 times its size. India could not even muster the courage to name China when China came and sat on its 20,000 square kilometer territory. And when it kind of tried to bully a neighbor which is 5 times smaller than its size, and it got slapped left, right, and center. What credibility does Indian state have left? Like India has nothing to offer to the world. And so Pakistan has a golden opportunity. I think it should take that opportunity to keep building on that credibility. It should work with the minorities within India, like the Sikhs, the Bengalis, the Northeasterns, to further the cause, the Kashmiris, to further the cause of liberty. Okay, and there are multiple ways, like in the talks, ceasefire talks that's going to happen. It should bring up Kashmir. It should bring up Khalistan, because once solving Kashmir will not solve the India-Pakistan problem. The India-Pakistan problem will be solved when you have a Sikh state in the middle, because the Sikh state will have porous and friendly relationships the with the Pakistan, with basically which is West Punjab for us, and it will also have porous and friendly and good relationship with Hindu India. That is the only good solution to this situation, which is effective and immediate, and that will open up trade, peace, prosperity. It will also take away the threat of nuclear Armageddon from the neck of the entire humanity. But will Pakistan take that? I think it depends upon Pakistan. It also depends upon the Sikhs. We Sikhs, can we kind of get together and form one, what we call ਧਿਰ, ਮੈਂ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਚ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਇੱਕ ਧਿਰ ਅਸੀਂ ਬਣ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ. And if we become that one third, then we can have negotiations. We can talk to the Pakistanis, and we know that the Panth, the Sikhs are one mind today, that we don't want to be with India. So we can open discussions with Pakistan. We all the Jathebandis can join together. That is what I'm trying for right now. And we should probably have discussions with America and Pakistan. Maybe have a government in exile, which then can be recognized by the Pakistani government. It will be recognized by many countries in the world. I know even like countries like Canada and US today want to recognize that. So it's the right moment, and if you can form that, the initial for the beginning, the capital of that Sikh state could be like a Vatican, like in Kartarpur Sahib, and I'm pretty sure our Lande Punjab brothers will be more than happy to give that. And then from there, pressure can be applied on India through talks to conduct a referendum in East Punjab. There are multiple ways, I think, paths forward to bring peace, prosperity, and solution to this India-Pakistan problem. And I'm sure we'll go there. We are all making efforts in our own small ways in that direction. Freedom Paji, kaun hai banda Van R2? I have not seen. Can you check the profile? If he's okay, then let's give him the mic. Okay, because I don't know what. Okay, let's give him the mic then. Yeah, Van R2, you have something to add?
I want to fry Indians. Why are you talking about peace?
That's not a great. Okay, let me just. No, we don't want to fry any Indians or Pakistanis. Let me kind of give you guys. That's not a great statement.
But they can't fry the Pakistanis. It was evident what happened. I mean, I don't have to reiterate what happened, do I?
Yeah. But why do you want to fry the Indians?
It's high time, don't you think? I mean, these guys have been doing all of this for a long time. I think we need to fucking give it to them.
Okay.
High time.
Okay, fine. Thanks.
Anyway, ceasefire is coming to end on Sunday evening. Let's see from which way these countries will go.
No, they are already fucking barking. Sorry about my language.
No, please. No, please mind your language. If you're on my space, please make some intelligent comment. There's no benefit of making such comments. Fry people. They're people, okay? We are not going to fry any Indians. We are not going to fry any.
It's really.
No, hold on. Nobody's frying anyone. Yes, if somebody is aggressing upon somebody, they have the right to defend themselves. Let me be very clear about the Khalistan stand, okay? We are the people who know how to defend ourselves. Our stand is very clear. We want peace and prosperity in the subcontinent. We want trade to flourish, but we want the nations to be independent. We want Khalistan to be independent. We want Bengalis to have the right to self-determination. We want Tamilians to have the right to self-determination. Kashmiris to have the right to self-determination. Indians per se are not the problem. The problem is the Indian state which has been formed, the centralized structure, which is now controlled by a very racist, casteist elite of the Hindi-speaking population in India, which is only 5 to 10% of the society. And that whole 5 to 10% of the society, keeps that 90% subjugated, which includes the Kashmiris, which include the Sikhs, which include the Tamilians, which includes the Keralites, which includes the Bengalis, which includes the Northeastern. And 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 that state, the moment we dismantle it, when all these nations come together and we apply joint pressure, then you will see that all the problems in this area will go away. That is the constructive way to go about it. Nobody will be fried, but nobody who is aggressing will be sent back without an answer.
There is a small problem with that. The small problem is for 78 actually years, they have been doing this and it hasn't come to an end. So, there is a sort of like a bar of tolerance that one has. And I think what they have been doing, especially in Kashmir, I understand your stance about Khalistan, and I support it. I understand your stance about Bangladesh and the other countries, and we are with them. But there is always a storm before it's calm. So these Indians, I appreciate your effort where you want things to be, hunky-dory and no issues. But, it's not going to get there until there is a big issue, until they realize that there is someone with a better gun. Now this is something I have learned. I am really 40 years old. So I have learned this over time.
So why don't you tell us about yourself? You are a Punjabi, you are a Bengali. Who are you like? What's your background?
I am a Pakistani, but my mother is Pathan.
Okay.
Umar Zai Pathan, and my father is Punjabi.
Okay, got it. Okay, that's fine. Your point has come, Artuji. Let's go to other speakers. Mohammed Paji and then Ceasefire. Hanji, Mohammed Paji, go ahead.
Gigi, thank you very much. You have made a good analysis on China-Indian scenario where I think atmosphere was slightly thinner as far as the China was concerned because of the terrain they have in the Tibet area, the plateau and everything. Now, I'm sure Indians also know this, but the history doesn't suggest Indian.
Putra, I'm busy. You guys are coming?
Can I come to your house?
Yes, please. But I'm on a call. Please start quickly.
Okay, bye.
Named by Chinese now. Even I was watching Indian Today, and one of the map was shown up by the Indian media was missing that particular portion of Arunachal Pradesh into China. There was a bit of discussion in Indian media, but overall, Indian media is quiet about it. Similarly, government is really quiet about it. Jaishankar hasn't said a word, even though he has an extremist mindset and where he's so much in favor of those Akhand Bharat and all those kind of terminologies he uses, and his close ties with RSS, the terrorist organization. So he hasn't mentioned a word against China with this sudden announce of the occupation. So why is the Indian government putting everything in regards to Arunachal Pradesh under the carpet? Have they accepted Chinese supremacy, or they're gonna respond to Chinese? Thank you.
Great question, Mohammed. I think this goes deep. This is a very deep question. Okay, it goes into the nature of the Indian state. As I said, the Indian state is run and controlled by the Hindi-speaking casteist elite of India. These top 2 or 3%, what they call themselves as the top 2 or 3 varnas in their system, which they call themselves the twice born. Okay, and their mentality comes from it's very in that sense it's almost a theocratic state. Not almost, it is a theocratic state. It's not a this whole idea of it's a secular and all is just a bullshit that they kind of sell to the West, but they can't sell to us. So So their mindset, if you go into their mindset is to always worship the power. Like their goddesses are all power goddesses. Okay, somebody who's powerful, they immediately start worshiping that element or that human being. Today, you hear all this noise about, okay, the Mughal Muslim rulers were bad, but when Akbar used to reign, when Akbar was declared Vishnu's seventh avatar or whatever ninth avatar, whatever, okay, by the same Hindu elite, okay, and they were all the nine Navratnas in his court. So it's the mentality of the Indian or slash Hindu mind is to always bow down the head to the power that be. They can never rebel. They can never like take on a stance when against somebody who's more powerful. Okay, and when that stick is clear, they will immediately start sucking up to you, whosoever has the biggest stick in the room, and then kind of start behaving as if like they are their servants. They'll offer their services without any and that, unfortunately, it's unfortunate, but that has been the trend. If you know the Indian society, when I say Indian, I'm not counting people from south, I'm not calling people from northeast, I'm not counting the Sikhs and Kashmiris, they are not Indian. When I'm saying Indian, I'm talking about Hindustan, which is the middle part of India, the Hindi speaking casteist part. That has been their track record. And once China has achieved what you call asymmetrical capability in terms of power that they have, the Indians will now start sucking up to China. They will never stand up to China. You will see them never ever. And they might even declare Xi Jinping, some god or some of that. Tomorrow, Xi Jinping comes on the border. You saw the Chinese army came and sat on the border, and not the Indian Prime Minister Modi did not even say that China has taken our land, leave alone fighting them. He did not even utter the word that China is occupying our territory. He actually came on TV and said, nobody has entered our territory, nobody has taken on our territory. The whole world is saying, man, they are sitting on your land, and you are telling us that nobody has taken. And all Indian, poor souls will believe it because they're all brainwashed by the Indian media. That's the true nature of the Indian state. And not just me. You can read the Kissinger memoirs. I think there also he has analyzed this. I have seen in my personal life, and I have kind of arrived at the same conclusion. I had a senior. He was a group captain Sidhu. He was also Sidhu. Same like your Air Marshal Sidhu. So he used to be very harsh in other officers, and I was like, and someday I was his adjutant. So one day, I was also sick, so I got a bit frank with him. I said, Sidhu, sir, you're too harsh. Like, you make people, you insult them, you make them work so hard, you're punishing them all the time. What is the need of this? Right? You can go a bit easy. And he told me one thing, Harjeet, you don't realize. And he used this word. He said, "It is a Hindu, hai na? Indian, let's say he used the word Indian. He said, "ये सिर्फ डंडे दी भाषा समझदा है." ठीक है? That they only understand the stick. The moment you go light with them, the moment you try to be friendly with them, they will take advantage of you. They will not respect it. They only understand the language of the stick, was his comment. And at that point in time, I was very young, and I thought this is a very racist, illogical take. Because my experience was more with South Indian people, and they are generally very hardworking, very intelligent. They're a different breed, okay? They're a different civilization. Same with the Northeast. But with this middle part of India, which actually controls India, which actually is the whole expression of India, that is Bharat, I think it is unfortunately true for that. ਪੰਜਾਬੀਆਂ ਚ ਉਲਟਾ ਹੈ। ਲੇਕਿਨ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਸਾਡੇ ਕਹਾਣੀ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਪਿਆਰ ਨਾਲ ਬੰਦੇ ਦੀ ਧੌਣ ਵੀ ਲੈ ਲਓ, ਤੇ if you say with love, the person will give his life. But if you try to boss around, then the person will like give his life and not do what you are trying to do. But in their culture, it is the other way around. Okay, and so that's why we find it very odd. I was actually surprised when the Chinese came and sat. I was not surprised. I was expecting this. When the Chinese came and sat on the Indian land, and the Indian Prime Minister was not saying anything, I saw Pakistani analysts saying, भाई कुछ तो बोलो, थोड़ी जमीन ते बैठे जबकि भाई China is Pakistan's friend. They were feeling ashamed, like how the Indian state is behaving. And so I think that is something, that's my understanding. I think that's why the Indians are not responding to China kind of. I think India will, like, China can take Arunachal. India won't do anything.
Are you an IAF veteran, Ajit?
Yes, yes.
Oh, good. So you never told me this. So now I will have a different. Hello, Dharma. How are you? I've seen you after a long time. But now the conversation will be very interesting. So do you think?
No, but R2, conversation can be interesting, but there are hands people have raised. Should we not finish
okay,
them?
yeah.
Right?
I'm sorry. Yes.
Okay, please. I will come to you. Mohammed Bari, you want to rebut something? Go ahead, and then we'll go to ceasefire and then R2.
No, I think you have really explained because you have history of being living there. You have worked in their organization, so the analysis which you are doing is definitely makes sense, and it should be trustable because you have seen them very closely. Like you have given example of the Sidhu Paji as well. I will come after Umair. I have a question, but that's a different thing. But I'll come after Umair.
Okay. Ceasefire, I think your name is Umair. So go ahead.
A short question, like, isn't this the most meaningless ceasefire ever? Because technically there was not even a war. Well, you require mobilization, as one Indian defense analyst pointed out. You require a pre-war stage, and then during which armies are mobilized, and then there's actual war. I mean, none of that really happened here. And so technically here, ceasefire just means we stop shooting guns at each other. But is this even sustainable for ceasefire to be extended like every few days? Okay, we're not going to shoot at each other this week, and then we'll think about it next week. Like, what kind of a ceasefire is that? Is that even sustainable? Does that mean the two armies are just going to be on alert the whole time, draining resources? Like, as a military person, what do you think? Or has the nature of war just completely changed? And so the notion of ceasefire has also changed. Like, now we don't need to mobilize armies. We can just fight wars using drones and missiles. And this is just the new reality. What do you think about this ceasefire now? Like, is this even a real ceasefire?
Yeah. Freedom Party, while I answer this, can you find that Chatti Singhpura thread that I had written and put it in the nest? So this, Mohammed, goes back to what was the purpose of this whole thing. When Pahalgam happened, when I looked at the facts of Pahalgam, the finger of suspicion that I had was purely towards the Indian rogue agencies, especially the IB. They are notorious for conducting false flag terrorist operations within India, and then create this tension with Pakistan. And then they play this Hindu India versus Islamic Pakistan game all the time. And they need to do this because it strengthens that Hindu nationhood of India and it brings people together. So it's a very favorite trick. Then it also helps them portray themselves as victims of terrorism. So there is something in their mind to kind of always portray themselves as victim. And this example you will see in history, example after example, starting from 1947. So they'll do a false flag operation, portray themselves as victims while being the aggressors. And so that helps them portray themselves as victims of terrorism in front of the international audience, and then kind of rally their people around the flag. And the Indian government does that whenever they're under some kind of a pressure, both external and internal. The prime example of that, and there are many other examples, but I like using Chatti Singhpura because there we have documented neutral investigation agencies having investigated and showed to the whole world that India was behind this, which is the massacre of 35 Sikhs in Kashmir on 20th March 2000. A United Nations inquiry ordered by United Nations, whose three main members were: one was a retired Lieutenant General of Indian Army, Lieutenant General Kuldeep Singh Gill;
Another was the Justice of Punjab and Haryana High Court, very highly regarded, Justice Ajit Singh Bans. And one was one of the highest regarded human rights activists in the world. They conducted that, they ran that commission of inquiry, and then they blamed that this was a work of Indian intelligence agencies, IB. And not only that, Bill Clinton then wrote in his memoirs of the autobiographical work of Madeleine Albright that the Hindu extremists came. He obviously wrote it in diplomatic language, but he pointed there. Then 21 congressmen also signed a letter asking for sanctions on India for that particular massacre. And this was Pahalgam was happening at the same time. James is visiting, and somebody this whole the Indian agencies are rogue. Okay, they are totally rogue. They have no control. They are a world and law unto itself. They can plan all these kind of dirty tricks, operations, whatever you name it. They've recently killed a Sikh in Canada, and they were running death squads on American soil with an endless list of Sikh leaders whom they thought anybody who will say anything against Bharat Mata, insult our flag, we are going to come and kill him. That is their thought process. They have no notion of freedom of speech, no notion of morality. Anything is fair for unity and territorial integrity of India. Okay, so the whole thing was conducted for to create this tension with Pakistan, and then kind of ward off this internal and external pressure, and that they can, if to me this ceasefire will not last as long as India, the Indian state, whosoever the political powers as well as their agencies, if they need this tension, they will constantly keep creating this tension. Unfortunately, this is also true for Pakistan. For Pakistan also it works. Okay, it works. If the Hindu India comes, now nobody will ask questions for General Munir ki, what are you doing? What is the democracy? What is that? Everybody will have to get behind the army. But I treat Pakistan as a lesser culprit, because even if you go back in history and you read history, Pakistan got created out of a majburi because the Hindu casteist leadership just did not accept the fact
You
that
are absolutely wrong. Sorry,
can,
Archie.
no, hold on. We'll come to you.
Because of the,
No, we'll come to you, Ketu. We'll come to you. Yeah, you can rebut it. The Hindu casteist leadership, at the even like the last ditch effort, the cabinet mission plan, everybody accepted of united India, including Jinnah, including Sikhs. But who rejected? The Hindu Congress. For them, it was unacceptable that the states could be autonomous and Punjab will be an autonomous kind of a state. They wanted this centralized rule with one man, one vote, which basically meant Hindu Raj. And they cannot afford, or they just don't have the self-confidence to live with other citizens as equal citizens, other religions as equal citizens. Even within their own society, they don't accept the notion of equality. Somebody asked this guy, Subramanian Swamy, who's one of the biggest smartest guy, whatever way you call it. Somebody asked him, so Mr. Swamy, is there are people equal before law? He said no. Law is equal for equals. Law is not equal for everyone. That is Varnashram. That is the core thought they have. They just don't, these notions of freedom of speech, equality before law, these are notions that are not kind of, they cannot digest it, they cannot accept it. It just doesn't come naturally. So to your point, the ceasefire will not last if the Indian state and agencies need the tension with Pakistan to continue. If they feel comfortable that they'll keep winning the election, they are not under any kind of international pressure, things are going hunky-dory, then the ceasefire will last. But if they are under pressure, it will not last. They will have to use this again and again to rally up their people. Haji Mohammed ji, after you, then we go to R2. Go ahead.
Yeah, two different questions in the same question, actually. Do you think, there was Modi's visit back in February. I think it was February. If I'm wrong, sorry, but there was on 14th February, they released some sort of a joint statement, and it was and the two things I noticed during the entire visit. Modi face was stressed. It was little bit, usually he hugs everybody and very happy and shaking hand with powers and all those. But in this case, he was slightly stressed, and he was looking a little confused. The reason I'm asking, do you think Modi has been asked by international powers, and this is why he was a little bit uncertain that whether he should do that? He was forced by international powers like Israel and America to take care of Pakistan. And since he couldn't do it, the behavior of Americans seems to be quite. I mean, this is the kind of behavior I haven't seen in a while, where American president on a podium is saying that he has requested Apple not to open any sort of manufacturing plant in India. This was like, I mean, I haven't seen any Americans so blunt statement against India for a while. And another thing, that was my first question. The second question, I am also surprised by Russia's overall statement as well. Russia has not given any statement whatsoever against Pakistan. They actually encouraged in a peace dialogue between India and Pakistan. So I think, and that's just my own opinion, that Indian in a way they thought, because they have been pumped so much by international powers that you are great, you've been doing great, your economy is 7%, GDP grows 70%, 7%, and you can do this. Your Bollywood is there, but they were just pumping them up. They thought they're making something against China, but like you mentioned, the behavior of the northern Indian people, that they are quite submissive to the power. They didn't realize this, that they cannot really be a competitor to China, and now all those international powers are a bit of getting away from India, that I think they're not going to invest
Yeah,
so much.
I got the question. So I'll give you two full. I'll first answer the Russian question. The Russians will not comment, okay, because Russia is today not subservient, he's kind of a B player to China. So Chinese interests are involved here. It's China supplying all the weaponry to Pakistan. Russia will keep quiet, remain out of it. It's China's sphere of influence. Russia is not going to step on Chinese toes. Regarding Americans, let me give you first-hand information. This came from my direct sources in White House. Okay, this is what exactly happened. Jay Shankar called Marco Rubio, pleading to help stop the Pakistanis and have some ceasefire done. And this is not a second-hand source, a direct source, I'm telling you, from people who were directly involved in the negotiation. And Marco then called up Trump on that night. This is what happened. Marco called up Trump basically said, bakwas, like, I don't want to waste my single minute on these people. I don't have time. Okay. They deputed a junior staffer in Trump's administration to talk to this guy, Jay Shankar, and then help him. And that junior guy brokered this kind of, whatever. He called the Pakistanis up and then basically brought them to the negotiation table. And that is how the ceasefire came about. This is the level of importance Trump gives to India as on date. Okay, does not mean the entire administration.
But on some level, don't you think? I mean, they are saying in Punjabi, I would say, कि तुसी पाकिस्तान दा ते कुछ कर नहीं सकते, तुसी China दा की करना.
हाँ, बिल्कुल. No, I'll come to. So this is just to give you some facts, okay, which I know these are the facts. Like these are not untruths. These are not like, this is exact treatment that Trump is giving them. Does not mean this is the entire view of the administration or what we call United States entire establishment. Because when it comes to policy making, okay, it's not just the White House. There are multiple other agencies involved, and India has deep influence. There is no doubt, especially due to the diaspora. So, but what happened was, if you go back, the Indian image 7 years back was exactly what you're talking about, that India is, a growing economy. India is where we are going to do our business in. But the moment this, in 2014, a single national party came into power. Doesn't matter whether it was Congress. Congress did the same thing when it was a single majority government. They immediately, what they do is they go back to nation building. Their problem is they have to create a nation called India. India is not a nation. India is an empire. Bengal is a nation. Tamils are a nation. Punjabis are a nation. Kashmiris are a nation. But India is not a nation. India is just a name of an empire. And so, but they don't accept it. The whole idea, that's where you have to go and read partition. They, in their mind, they gave up this fake notion that India is a civilizational nation. Which civilization? You are saying like a Sikh is the same civilization as a Tamilian? A Sikh has way more in common with a Sindhi or a Baloch or a Pathan than with a Tamilian. So how can they be the same nation? So it's total bull crap. So because it was not a nation, what they do is, and I'll come back to this aspect, they go back to, that's why you read Indian constitution, India, that is Bharat. Because historically there India was never a nation. So they have to go to mythology and just fanciful stories. Mahabharata is a story. Okay, if anybody thinks it's history, go and check your brain. Okay, get me some evidence. You want to believe is a different thing. History is different. Okay, so then there is no such concept of being one, nation everywhere, all same people, same religion are living together. So then they go to, then they create this, no, Bharat, Mahabharat, there was some Bharat, and we were all nation, but it's not a reality. So that is why from day one they are in the nation building task, whether it was Congress, whether it is BJP or it is Aam Aadmi Party. Every national party is in a nation building task. They are trying to construct a fake nation called India by doing what? By destroying the linguistic, ethnic, and religious diversity of the subcontinent. So one nation, one language. One nation, one law. One nation, one this. One nation, one that. All this bullcrap. So what are you doing? You are destroying the diversity. You are not letting these nations to express their nationhood and kind of survive. So you want to impose Hindi upon everyone to make sure that becomes the first language. So this is the travesty. So to your point, what was happening was when this BJP came in, coming back to that point, they immediately, the only time India did not indulge in this blatant nation building was during the time when regional parties came into power in Delhi. That happened between 91 till 2000, I would say 14, because even Manmohan Singh's government was a coalition government dependent upon regional parties. So that is the only time when India also progressed, because these regional parties don't have these fanciful dreams of converting India into Bharatvarsh. Okay, they are only focused upon, if there is Akali Dal, it's only focused on Punjab. If there is a DMK, it is only focused on Tamil. It's not interested in putting a Tamilian with an AK-47 outside the house of a Kashmiri. What is a Tamilian with an AK-47 doing standing outside the house of a Kashmiri? If you let a Tamilian be Tamilian, he has no interest. He has to go and trouble a Kashmiri. A Sikh with an AK-47 is standing outside the house of a Nagaland guy. What? We do have an interest to do that as a Sikh? No. But who is making you do this? This whole construct of India, this colonial legacy called the Indian state that the British kind of left here, the chains of slavery that are then now being kind of, internalized by the Hindu casteist elite to build Bharatavarsha. And that is the fundamental problem. So what happened was in 2014, when a single party, when one of the national parties gained majority, they have this immense power, they again went back to nation building process. So the main concept of nation building, they need control. If they have to destroy the linguistic diversity and suppress the nationhood, they have to gain control. So what they do is they first clamp down on private enterprise and give all the businesses to select few business houses so they can control what happens in the private sector. Nehru did the same thing. In his time, he had 4 or 5 big, maybe 10 big business families, the Mahindras, the Tatas, the Birlas, and then they can have the private, they'll control the private sector, he will control the government sector. And everybody will be a slave. Now in 2014, when BJP came into power, they just started kind of kicking out every single, foreign company out of the business. India had a really competitive cell phone, cellular market. India had almost leapfrogged US, and they kicked everybody out. No, only Ambani will control all the thing. All the ports, only Adani will control.
Okay, so that whole centralization thing again started. So the Indian economy, the bright spot that it was for international investment, that vanished. And every single American business, whether it is an automobile or automobile industry, same thing. All the car will now be made by Tata than Mahindras. Ford packed up, you name every big foreign company it packed up. But from a market they should have made a lot of money in. And the idea was control. So then, not only that, so the world realized that India is no more a bright economic spot. But then the other value that West sees from India is, okay, we can use it against China, and we see what bhuta they have to fight China. India will never fight China. I told you. They came and sat there, and then they're like, okay, koi aaya nahi, koi gaya nahi, koi gusa nahi. Like V6, like I am not for Indian regime, okay? I'm anti-Indian regime. For my thing, Indian regime should vanish tomorrow. But even I was feeling embarrassed. Man, इत्थे की कर देते हो? कुछ तो करो, कोई इज्जत माड़ी मोटी तो होती है. ठीक है? But they know. So now with this incident, they are further exposed. There is no Indian Air Force. There is no Indian Army. I'm telling you, the Indian Army is in way worse condition than what the Indian Air Force is. And they have been, just killing like 500 men, 5,000 men, hunting down a poor Kashmiri villager and then claiming Shaurya Chakra and Sena Medal. It's bullshit. Like, what kind of an army kind of, kind of glorifies these acts? And they feel, oh, pata nahi humne kya kar diya. You will come to know what war is when you will fight an enemy who is equal to you. Then you will see what is war. And so, like, all this line, the whole nation is kind of celebrating, poor youth being caught up where they could be militant, solve the problem, but there is no intention to solve the problem. Anyways, so that being said, the India today is of no value. To your point, what I'm saying is, the West had already, and on top of that, Muhammad, the Indian, this idea of Bharat Varsha, this whole money, some money that they got due to some years of progress, got to their head, and they started killing any person anywhere in the world who is speaking against them. This guy, Hardeep Singh Nijjar, was murdered in a Gurdwara at his place of worship on Father's Day. 52 bullets pumped into his body in a cowardly fashion by hiring 4 criminals. Who does that? For what? What was his crime? He's conducting this referendum. Okay, why are you problem with that? Why are you problem? No, the referendum is against us. It is secessionist. So in their eyes, they have acts which declare a person a terrorist just because he's saying that I should have my right to self-determination. By that logic, Gandhi was a terrorist. Everybody is a terrorist. The basic concept they don't understand, that in a democratic free society, right to demand secession and right to demand self-determination is the core of it. And if you even you make that illegal and call that guy a terrorist, you have lost it. So they can't even take that, and they murdered that person there. Not only that, they poisoned in very dastardly fashion a 26-year-old boy in UK, Avatar Singh Khanda. Poisoned him, 26-year-old boy. And they can't even fight openly, okay? They can't openly tell the Sikhs that we want you to become Hindus, we want you to be self-serving. So they fight with us by calling us, oh, we are your brothers, the Sikhs are us. Because they are afraid, they are cowards at the core. Because they can't fight an open war with us, they fight an undeclared war of subjugation with us. And they try to gaslight us. So that's what they did there and then they were running death squads using what? Criminals, like gangsters. Like, what kind of intelligence professional does that kind of a work? Only in India. For them, it is Indian Intelligence Bureau is the biggest rogue intelligence agency, if we can call it India. It's kind of it's actually, honestly, can it tabaya intelligence profession de naate? The type of work that they indulge in, the type of work that they do for their masters, politicians and all, you name it. You have to read a book. I encourage everybody to read a book by M.K. Dhar. He retired from the second highest post in IB. The book's name is Open Secrets. Go and read it, and he will tell you, what is the reality of Indian agencies. They conducted this fake bombing, Air India 182. 329 people murdered. 329. 90% of them Hindus. As a fake flag so that they can delegitimize the Sikh movement. They don't care. It's Hindus are the main. Hindus are to be oppressed, okay?
Hindus are as I said, it is all the Indian society, this caste structure is for the top 10% to suppress the next 90%. So that's what is going on. So what I'm trying to tell you is that India has lost its economic bright spot. India has lost its whatever allure of being a military counterweight in China. India has nothing to offer to the world. Okay, it is a headache to the entire global. And then by pumping in immigrants, nationalistic, who are totally brainwashed into Indian, these people are not nice people. They are not bad. I have friends, okay, who are mostly Indians coming, who are South Indians, who are even Hindi speaking. That's fine. As individuals, they are nice, but they are brainwashed into this concept of India, that is Bharat. And they hate West from the core of their heart. They come here, they take citizenship, they take green cards, but in their mind, they are still loyal to India, and India is the best. Varnashram is best. They will oppose caste discrimination legislation because it's anti-Hindu. What the hell? So this is a problem. The Indian state, as long as it exists, it's not going to let peace and prosperity in the subcontinent, and it will not also let peace and prosperity come. It's now a source of global instability through excessive migration into Western countries, and the world is seeing it plain and plain. So everybody is now aligned that something has to be done with India. This problem has to be solved, and the real solution to that problem goes through Khalistan. Once that is what I want. Okay, anyways, many hands are up, but I want to kind of make sure we listen to R2 because he was trying to say something. Then we'll go to Mohit. Freedom Party, you want to say something? Before?
Yeah, I want to add on to this. Like, if you look at yesterday's news, when Indian Foreign Minister Jaishankar is boasting about having a backup statement from Taliban, it tells you everything where they are heading and what they are doing. It's crystal clear. They are backed by a terrorist state, and this is what they are heading. This is their future.
Got it. And one thing I want to do is maybe I'll close my live stream. We will keep the space open, but I'm going to close the live stream because the presentation I've already made. I'm not sure.
Speaking, I don't hear.
Oh, okay. One thing I was going to check. Maybe I should close my live stream, right? Because I think we can keep the space open, so we can talk. But I'm not sure if it's of value to keep the live stream on. What do you think, Freedom Party?
Yeah, turn off the space. It's already in the recording anyways. It's gonna stay on your account anyways.
No. What I'm saying is we'll keep the space on, but I can switch off the
space on. Just
live stream. I can turn off, right? Some people are probably, and people who are on live stream, if you want to keep participating in the discussion, you can go to my profile, FTW Harjeet, and you should see the Twitter space, which is live. I'm not closing the space. You guys can come and join me in the space. We are going to continue this discussion. I think it's a great discussion. Now we are going into the depth of this problem called Indian state. So I'm going to end the live stream. Live stream, Alayanu Saranu, Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Twitter space, please remain on. I'm ending the live stream now.